This is Chicago, a city with massive skyscrapers, crowded trains, busy streets. Yet somehow, it feels far more organized than most cities in America. And that's because Chicago wasn't built randomly. It was planned. From the streets, to the train system, to the neighborhoods, almost everything in Chicago follows a system designed to make the city actually work for people. And today, many urban experts consider it one of the best designed cities in the United States. But why Chicago feel different? And why do so many American cities struggle to achieve what Chicago already solved over 100 years ago? To understand that, we need to go back in time. In the 1800s, Chicago was growing at an insane speed. What started as a tiny settlement quickly became one of the most important cities in America. Factories exploded, railroads expanded, businesses flooded in, and by the early 1900s, Chicago had become one of the largest cities on Earth. But rapid growth created massive problems: traffic congestion, dirty waterways, overcrowded housing, chaotic streets. The city was booming, but it was also becoming difficult to live in. That's when planners and architects realized something important. If Chicago continued growing without structure, it could collapse under its own chaos. In 1909, architect Daniel Burnham introduced something revolutionary: the Plan of Chicago. Instead of allowing the city to expand randomly, the plan focused on making Chicago efficient, beautiful, and livable. Wide streets, better transportation, connected parks, public lakefront access. At the time, these ideas were incredibly ambitious, but many of them eventually became reality, and they still shape Chicago today. One of the biggest reasons Chicago feels so organized is its street grid. Unlike many cities with confusing roads and random layouts, Chicago follows a near-perfect system. At the center of the city is the intersection of State Street and Madison Street. This acts like the 0 point of the entire map. From there, addresses increase in every direction in a logical pattern. In fact, every 800 address numbers equals roughly 1 mile. So even if you've never visited Chicago before, you can often estimate locations just by looking at the address. It sounds simple, but this level of organization is extremely rare in major cities. Then there's Chicago's transit system, known as the L. The city's elevated train network became one of the most important parts of Chicago's identity. Unlike many American cities that became completely dependent on cars, Chicago invested heavily in public transportation early on. Today, the system stretches across the city, with multiple train lines connecting neighborhoods directly to downtown. And one of its smartest features is something called the Loop, a circular rail system surrounding the downtown core. Nearly every major train line connects into it, which means people can move around the city quickly without needing a car for everything. And because much of the system is elevated above the streets, the trains became one of the most recognizable symbols of Chicago itself. But Chicago's design goes beyond trains and streets. The city also found something many American cities struggle with: balance. Chicago is dense enough to support transit, businesses, and walkable neighborhoods, but not so dense that every area feels overwhelming. As you move away from downtown, the density gradually decreases. Skyscrapers turn into apartment buildings. Apartment buildings turn into quiet neighborhoods. This creates a layered city where different areas feel connected instead of isolated. And unlike many modern cities filled only with suburbs or giant towers, Chicago still has huge amounts of middle housing, two flats, graystones, courtyard apartments. The kind of housing that allows more people to live near the city without requiring massive skyscrapers everywhere. Another major reason Chicago stands out is its lakefront. Most cities around the world sell valuable waterfront land to private developers, but Chicago protected much of its shoreline for public use. Today, miles of parks, trails, beaches, and green spaces line Lake Michigan, giving ordinary people direct access to some of the most valuable land in the city. It's one of the reasons Chicago feels far more open and connected to nature compared to many other urban areas. And while Chicago still faces problems like crime, taxes, and harsh winters, its overall design continues to make the city surprisingly livable, especially compared to many modern American cities built almost entirely around highways and suburban sprawl. Chicago proves something important. A city doesn't need to be perfect to function well. And more than a century later, the decisions made long ago still shape how millions of people experience Chicago every single day. Because in a country filled with car-dependent suburbs and chaotic urban expansion, Chicago became something different. A city designed not just to grow, but to work. If you enjoyed this video and want to explore more futuristic cities, urban mega projects, smart infrastructure, and the future of civilization, subscribe to Urban Decoded, because the world is changing faster than ever, and we're here to show you how.